Head over to thebestsongever.com and purchase our new hit, Together Again. It is a cover of Smokey Mike and the God King. That's Jeremy Boring and Michael Knowles. And with your help, we will smash our way onto the Billboard charts. Hunter Biden claims he might flee the country if Donald Trump is elected president. So, pick your poison, ladies and gentlemen. Look, I'm going to say it. Luke, I'm going to say it. Civil war.
Drink. What about it? Take a shot.
You've got right now journalists being arrested. The expectation and the evidence is clear that more journalists, more personalities, they're going to keep arresting people over January 6th. That is their move. In the inverse, Hunter Biden feels he has to flee the country if Trump is elected. Because if Trump is elected, the expectation is he is going to start arresting these criminally corrupt individuals. No matter which way you cut it, neither side can accept defeat in 2024, no matter what.
I mean,
wild.
Cohesion is a win.
Well, you got to understand, Ian, the Democrats embarked on a trajectory that there's no going back from with this legal lawfare that they have utilized against the Republicans. Right. You look at everything that they have been doing. It has opened up a Pandora's box that we see in many developing nations. We see in banana republics the same kind of behavior, going after politicians, going after lawyers, going after journalists because of their political ideas and expressions. That is a very dangerous move that there's no going back from. Now, if there is a transition of power, and I say that very carefully, if there is a transition of power, why wouldn't the next president of the United States, who is a Republican, use the same kind of legal lawfare that the Democrats used? And they would be at a disadvantage now if they didn't, because they would show weakness and they would allow them to get away with essentially this larger pendulum swing escalation that sadly there's no going back from.
I feel like they have everything to lose. Obviously, Joe Biden has everything to lose, which is why he's probably still running to protect himself, because they've committed so many crimes with the political persecution, of course. And, you know, the January 6th first unselect committee was so lawless, and all of the stuff that will be uncovered, obviously, if Trump gets back in, and hopefully he would actually persecute these people because they have committed real crimes. Unlike, you know, Donald Trump, I don't think he's committed real crimes, and I'm not being biased towards Trump, but he hasn't. So I think that the Democrats have everything to lose, and they're going to pull out all the stops to win next year, whatever that means. They're going to pull out all the stops.
I had this
Well, I think a lot of presidents violate the laws and do something illegal, but they're never held accountable for it. I would kind of disagree with you on that point, but the fact that they are prosecuting it for the first time shows the clear escalation, because there's previous presidents that murdered and assassinated American teenage citizens with their own signatures, with them personally signing off on it. So all presidents, essentially in my book, are criminals,
right?
And they have committed criminal violations against human beings, against innocent life.
War crime. I mean, I guess, how could you say that minus war crimes? Because war crimes are terrible. I guess, like, in the eyes of any other nation, American presidents commit genocide, commit many war crimes. But I don't think anyone's really been as bad as Joe Biden when it comes to the political persecution that's going on in America right now, and the attack of a political opponent and his supporters and his attorneys, and anybody that voted for Trump is automatically an enemy of the state.
Absolutely. No, of course. You're absolutely right about that. And that's the point that we're making here. Ian, you were going to say something.
Well, I was going to say a couple of things. One is, I think if another president comes in and they're like, the pendulum swinging, like, slow it down. We can do this together, because if we fall into disarray, the whole world's going to create World War III on our soil. It's going to be, the roads will get, like, it would be like infection, starvation, and dehydration are the three main enemies, not weapons and bombs. If that happens, we cannot let that happen. We got to stay together. But I had this vision like 3 or 4 days ago where I was like, saw the government actually like really going and rounding people up, kind of like arresting, sort of like, I mean, you could kind of consider what this journalist and everything, and that people cheering it on. Like, that's like how they create like a scapegoat, a group of scapegoats, and then the rest of the people are like, yeah. And then I started thinking of the Nazis and how they did that to the Jews, and I'm like, just wake up, people, wake up.
It's so scary. And like, I always feel like whenever I see a group being demonized, I'm always very suspicious. Like, for example, with January 6th, how the white male that's like the kind of like the Midwestern, really white guy became a terrorist, a domestic terrorist. There's a reason. It's like the same thing that happened after, I think, the Iraq War, how Muslim people were really demonized, and that's what ushered in the Patriot Act. January 6th and demonizing white men ushered in this really tyrannical stuff and this judicial precedent that nobody has any idea what the long-term ramifications will be. So I'm always suspicious when a group is demonized by the media and by the deep state.
Let's go back to this story because if this story is true, if the sources are true here, Hunter's not wrong. Like, if Donald Trump becomes president of the United States, if you're looking to save your own kind of self, your own skin, get the hell out of Dodge.
And what if Trump loses? And what if it's Newsom Harris, or Newsom Whitmer? I mean, if it's Whitmer, this lady is a psychotic and deranged murderer, right?
Why do you say that?
Putting COVID patients into, my favorite story, the dude who mercilessly beat that old man to death in a Michigan nursing home. Remember that one?
No, I don't think so. Pull it up.
No, a lot of people are saying that Whitmer could be the VP for Newsom. That could be a likely candidacy that would be absolutely atrocious for the American people.
20-year-old beating suspect was moved to nursing home because he has COVID-19, says father. Detroit. So, like many states, these governors were putting people who should not be in nursing homes during COVID, and it resulted. New York is the example we all
patients,
know.
Yeah.
15,000 dead, and that was Andrew Cuomo. So this is why people are like, you think Chris Cuomo would come on the show? No, he would never come on the show. Because I got to say, I'm sorry. I'm probably the only one with the balls to say to Chris Cuomo, your brother is a mass murderer who murdered 15,000 people, including a friend of the show whose parents died because of what Andrew Cuomo did.
I think we got to start manifesting that these people will come on the show, because that's the culture war. If they won't, if people refuse to talk, then we lose the cult. That's the loss. That's game over. If people refuse to communicate, it's game over.
Right.
Sociopathic mass murderers don't usually deal with confrontation well. They don't deal with being confronted on their horrible actions that have led to tremendous human life loss, especially when called out directly to it face to face. I called out a lot of war criminals personally myself during my journalistic career. They don't get happy. I got arrested a number of times for confronting a lot of politicians about their very horrible illicit actions.
Well,
they get mad. They freak out.
Yeah, right. And in New York right now, speaking of, there's a new law that they just passed that quarantine camps, like if you're sick or if you're unvaccinated, literally this is something that Kathy Hochul put through. You could be put in a quarantine camp against your will. So they could come to your home, knock on the door, pull you out and throw you in a quarantine camp.
So we talk about Hunter Biden, wanting to get out of Dodge, but then what's the what if Trump loses? Now, here's what I think.
Do we get out of Dodge?
Well, I don't think Trump wins or loses. I don't think Biden, Newsom, whoever it's going to be, wins or loses. I don't think. I cannot see a reasonable conclusion to the election. I can't. In 2020, we had a lawsuit, Texas v. Pennsylvania, with, I believe, 48 states that were involved in the suit, either joining in or filing amicus briefs. Or what's the proper plural, amici or whatever? I don't know. The point is, they're all basically saying we are pushing back. The only reason it stopped there was because the Supreme Court refused to take the case, and the case fizzled, which was the Supreme Court taking sides with Pennsylvania. Right. This left a very sour taste in the mouths of states like Texas. And Texas, Ken Paxton goes hard, and you got Missouri as well going after these fraudsters. What's going to happen at the end of 2024? Before we even get to Election Day, there's going to be legal challenges to early voting. There's going to be claims of widespread fraud on both sides. The election will happen. Different channels and different outlets will report different data. People are going to notice, like, oh, look, the number changed on the TV. It went up, then it went down. And no one will accept it because, I'll tell you, nobody accepted 2016. The Democrats said it was Russia. The Democrats actually believed that Russia hacked the machines. In 2020, it was the conservatives who said the Democrats rigged the machines. 2024 is going to be, we will not accept this. Why? Because the Biden DOJ is already weaponizing law enforcement to arrest innocent people like this journalist, Steve Baker. That's already happening. So you've got all of these Trump administration officials facing criminal prosecution, and they're like, Trump needs to win. We have to win this one. Now, many of them are bowing out like cowards. That's true. But a lot of people are like, if Trump does not win, this is life or death. Hunter Biden saying the same thing. So it's going to be 100,000 lawsuits from the left, 100,000 from the right. The courts are going to be jammed up. And I imagine come December, we don't know who won.
I just don't want to rest everything on one guy's status as president. Like, it's so much about the individual loving the humans around them and sacrificing themselves for the humans around them.
You know, I agree with you, but for the J6ers, it is life or death.
It is.
For many of them, especially with a lot of them that are in solitary confinement. So I agree with your sentiment. Never put any man above yourself. Never worship any man. Never idol any man or woman. Always make sure to take care of yourself first. I think the bigger solution, other than voting, is you being the best version of yourself, being happy, being healthy, being strong, being financially successful. That's the way out of this. Us realizing, hey, we don't need government. We don't need tyranny. We don't need all this other crap all around us that they keep trying to sell us, and only works because we keep buying it. So I understand that sentiment a lot, but sadly, with how weaponized the political system has become, it is life or death for a lot of individuals. It is freedom or slavery for a lot of individuals, and those are high stakes
and for
right
the
there.
journalists.
And the future of this country as well, to where it is going to be going from here.
I'm concerned that Donald Trump's Don, I'm going to call you, is like, does he not realize that, like, if he keeps pushing and being like, I'm going to go get him, I'm going to get that, like, it's making it worse for the people, like the people that are in prison. It's making it worse. It's making them be like, oh, we need less Trump supports because he keeps saying he's going to come destroy. Like, why doesn't he tone down and start to talk about unity?
Yeah, that's always the mysterious question, why Donald Trump says some of the things he does. I guess, like, you know, he says some things that are really out there. I think a lot of the times he's just saying it kind of jokingly. Like he said, I'm going to come after these people, but only on day one. And, you know,
He didn't say that.
He said that, or he didn't?
He said on day one, I'm going to
one?
drill, baby, drill, and build a wall. He dodged the question.
Okay.
Hannity said, are you going to be a dictator and go after these people? And Trump said, only on day one, we're going to build a wall and we're going to drill.
So I guess, see, even I am guilty of hearing fake news, because that was what I heard on the
He
news.
said it. He said, when he said, are you going to be a dictator and do this? He said only on day one. That was his answer. And then he went on to say,
then
I'm
it
going
got
to drill.
cut off, and they used that soundbite everywhere. That's what I'm saying. That's why I was under that impression.
And they use these clever lines where Trump says he will be dictator only one day.
Right, and I believed it. I said how he said it, but he was probably joking around. You know, that's what I thought.
It was such a lazy way to answer the question.
Right.
No, I don't think Trump was listening.
He wasn't listening.
Yeah, he was not
That's
listening.
a lazy way to answer. Like, if you're not
Hannity was-
listening, say, I didn't hear, I didn't understand what you said. Please repeat the question.
Hannity was asking, are you going to use your powers to get revenge and retribution? And Trump's not paying attention. And then he just hears dictator and he goes, yes, to build a wall. And then Hannity goes, no, that's not what I asked. I asked about retribution. And Trump's like, we're going to drill. And so you can argue that Trump just did not answer the question. That's the most reasonable explanation. That's it. He didn't actually answer the question about whether he'd really be a dictator to get revenge.
He answered it. He just,
But look, the question,
listening to
why
it.
does Donald Trump say the things he's saying? Well, you know, I kind of feel like a lot of people in this country think that when the DOJ is weaponized, when the far left is given carte blanche, you have to actually fight back. And how do you do it? Donald Trump talking is probably the best way to do it. Why? Well, we don't want violence. We don't want civil war. So a lot of people are like, we're going to be reasonable. We're not going to riot. We're not going to do what Black Lives Matter does. We are going to vote in local election officials, which they've done. We're going to vote in populist candidates in Congress, which they've done in many areas. And we're going to support Donald Trump. Then Donald Trump says, I'm going to go after him and I'm going to do all this. But here's the thing. That's the best possible way to actually do it, to vote for Trump and then hope he uses law enforcement powers to arrest criminals.
you could consider that as a tactic, but I think a better way is to strengthen our economy. I think that the best way to solve the corruptive issue is to make a stronger base growth domestic product.
How do you
GDP.
do that when for the past 20 years they've extracted the GDP and sent it to China?
You need to, I think it's hydrogen fuel. You need to alter our fuel source.
You didn't answer my question.
Well, you need to start pumping hydrogen through the methane systems.
What does that have to do with them sending our manufacturing base to China? How do we make hydrogen when we don't have people here to work factories or factories that can do hydrogen refining?
We have some out of Rice University. They're hitting carbon trash with electricity at 7,000 degrees with flash joule heating and turning it into hydrogen fuel.
So let's go back to the beginning. What should the American people do when for the past 20 years, the neocons and neolibs have sent our manufacturing base to China?
Build new manufacturing.
And how do you do that?
By inspiring people, show them what to build.
Who does that?
I'm doing it right now, I'm
a
telling
regular American, what can they do?
You can Search James Tour out of Rice University and look at what they're doing with creating hydrogen.
I got a problem for you. There's an EPA regulation barring the construction of factories and the carbon emissions in this area.
It doesn't produce carbon emissions.
I'm not talking about hydrogen specifically. I'm talking about the manufacturing base.
Explain what you just said.
The reason people voted for Donald Trump is because he vowed to relax rules, executive orders, and to work with Congress to repeal laws to allow manufacturing to return to this country. That's not the only reason, that's a big component. What we end up seeing in the first term of Donald Trump was a $3 billion reinvestment into Michigan from auto manufacturers who brought their factories back. The reason why Trump wanted to remove environmental regulations like the EPA was because this was the reason why these factories moved in the first place. They could not actually produce things. And the Democrats, they've done the perfect system of no tariffs, free trade, and high regulation, high taxes. The trifecta. What that means is anybody who wants to open a factory, say to make socks, they're like, socks produce too much carbon. EPA says no. Taxes are at 35%. We can't afford it. However, free trade with China. That means we put our factory in China. We pump out as much carbon as we want. The socks get sent back to the U.S. for free, and the U.S. taxpayer dollars and wages get sent to China instead. Thanks for watching this clip from the Timcast IRL podcast. Hang out with us live Monday through Friday at 8 p.m. and become a member over at timcast.com for uncensored, members-only shows exclusive. Thanks for hanging out, and we'll see you all next time.